Before you kill the clover in your lawn, look at what's happening beneath it. Those tiny root nodules are doing something your bag of fertilizer never can. So, is clover really a weed? Or part of the system keeping this lawn alive? The plant commonly found in North American lawns is white clover, or Trifolium repens. It is a low-growing perennial member of the legume family. Each normal leaf consists of 3 rounded leaflets, often marked with a pale, curved pattern. Its familiar white flower head is actually a cluster of many tiny individual flowers. But the secret to its persistence lies closer to the ground. White clover produces creeping horizontal stems called stolons. When a stolon touches the soil, it can form roots at its nodes and establish another connected section of the plant. That is how one small plant can gradually develop into a dense patch. Most of its leaves and growing points remain below the height of a mower blade. Cutting the flowers does not necessarily remove the rooted network beneath them, allowing the clover to recover. Its performance varies by climate, soil, and region, so local guidance still matters. The plant commonly found in North American lawns is white clover, or Trifolium repens. It is a low-growing perennial member of the legume family. Each normal leaf consists of 3 rounded leaflets, often marked with a pale, curved pattern. Its familiar white flower head is actually a cluster of many tiny individual flowers. But the secret to its persistence lies closer to the ground. White clover produces creeping horizontal stems called stolons. When a stolon touches the soil, it can form roots at its nodes and establish another connected section of the plant. That is how one small plant can gradually develop into a dense patch. Most of its leaves and growing points remain below the height of a mower blade. Cutting the flowers does not necessarily remove the rooted network beneath them, allowing the clover to recover. Its performance varies by climate, soil, and region, so local guidance still matters. Now, follow one of these roots underground. The small bumps attached to it are root nodules. Inside them is a partnership between the clover and specialized soil bacteria, commonly called rhizobia. The plant absorbs energy from sunlight and produces carbon compounds. It transfers some of this energy to the bacteria, providing them with a protected environment inside the nodule. In return, the bacteria perform a process the plant cannot perform on its own. Most of the atmosphere consists of nitrogen gas, but plants cannot simply absorb this gas through their leaves or roots and use it directly. Inside the nodules, bacteria convert atmospheric nitrogen into forms that can be used in the plant's metabolism. A tuber that actively fixes nitrogen may have a pinkish tint inside due to a molecule called legumoglobin, which helps regulate oxygen levels. This allows well-established clover to meet most of its nitrogen needs on its own, without relying on repeated nitrogen applications. But here's the important correction. Clover does not instantly pump free fertilizer into every blade of grass growing beside it. The nitrogen fixed inside a living nodule is first used by the clover itself. It supports the plant's leaves, stems, roots, flowers, and continued growth. Some of that nitrogen can enter the wider lawn system gradually. Fine roots die and decompose. Older leaves fall. Small clover clippings may remain after mowing. Soil organisms break this material down, and part of its nitrogen may eventually become available in the soil. Nearby grass can then absorb some of those released nutrients. But the timing and amount depend on climate, soil biology, moisture, plant growth, and how the clippings are managed. Clover can contribute nitrogen to the lawn ecosystem. It does not fertilize every neighboring grass plant overnight. Clover often becomes more noticeable where turf grass is thin or struggling. Low available nitrogen can favor clover because its bacterial partnership gives it access to a source of nitrogen that ordinary lawn grasses cannot use. But clover is not a precise soil testing instrument. A patch may also reflect compacted soil, inconsistent moisture, mowing height, weak or poorly adapted turf, open spaces in the lawn, or simply the presence of clover seed and established stolons. Its appearance does not automatically prove one specific deficiency. Before spreading fertilizer, inspect the entire site. Look at drainage, sunlight, foot traffic, irrigation, turf species, mowing practices, and the density of the existing grass. Then obtain a proper soil test when appropriate. Diagnosing the underlying condition is more useful than treating clover itself as a laboratory result. Nitrogen fixation is only one part of the story. White clover stays low, spreads across exposed ground, and can fill small spaces between grass plants. In suitable conditions, that creates a green living cover rather than leaving bare soil open. Its flowers also produce nectar and pollen used by bees and other visiting insects. Because white clover can flower over an extended period, it may provide forage when fewer other flowers are available nearby. This is why it is sometimes included in a bee lawn, a maintained mixture of turf grass and low-growing flowering plants, designed to remain useful to people while offering resources to pollinators. A bee lawn is not necessarily a wild meadow. It can still be mowed and intentionally managed. The difference is that absolute uniformity is no longer the only goal. Grass provides a durable surface, while selected low flowers add biological variety above and below the soil. This doesn't mean flowering clover should be grown everywhere. The flowers attract bees, which may be undesirable near a cool, children's play equipment, or a path where people regularly walk barefoot. Placement requires special care if anyone in the family has severe allergies to insect bites. Clover also changes the appearance of the lawn. It can create visible patches instead of the perfectly uniform texture some homeowners desire. It won't correct serious drainage problems, match the right grass species, correct severe soil compaction, or identify all nutrient deficiencies without a soil test. White clover is also an introduced, not native species in much of North America. A homeowner focused on regional biodiversity may prefer native, low-growing indigenous plants. This choice should be tailored to the region. There is no single ground cover that is native or suitable everywhere. Clover is a tool, not a universal solution. That leaves 3 reasonable strategies. First, keep existing patches where they cause no conflict. A clover patch along a quiet edge may provide ground cover and flowers without interfering with play, walking, or the appearance of the main lawn. Second, create a controlled mixed lawn. Allow low clover to grow among compatible grasses, while continuing to mow and define borders. The result will not look perfectly uniform, but it may remain green, functional, and less dependent on nitrogen inputs. Third, if clover is genuinely unwanted, begin by strengthening the grass. Test the soil before adding nutrients. Select turf species adapted to the site. Relieve compaction where necessary. Correct irrigation problems, and use an appropriate mowing height. Dense, healthy turf leaves fewer openings for clover to occupy. Small patches can also be removed locally. Lift the plant carefully and remove the creeping stolons and their rooted nodes, or it may regrow from the portions left behind. Here is a 5-step plan. First, confirm that the plant is white clover rather than a similar 3-leaflet species. Second, test the soil before assuming that more nitrogen is required. Third, decide where flowers can benefit pollinators without creating conflict with play areas, pools, or heavily used paths. Fourth, mow high enough to support healthy turf and, where practical, allow selected clover patches to flower. Before mowing during peak bloom, inspect the area for active bees. Fifth, leave finely chopped clippings on suitable lawn areas when they are light enough to settle between the grass blades. As that material decomposes, nutrients can gradually return to the system.